Asian women are mocking women who are crying alone on social media. Asian women are mocking women who are crying alone on social media. Let's just go ahead and jump right into this. So many of you know about Mayumi. She's been posting on my channel for a little bit now. She's a Japanese woman. She was raised in Japan. She lives in the United States now. She's married to a Black American. He's both Black and of Asian descent, and they have children. And she is a traditional woman. She has been commenting about the relationship between men and women and the actions of women in society who chose to live promiscuous lives. Well, you know the videos I've been making recently where women are crying on social media, and she actually left a response to this. She says, "I laugh when I see the tears of these picky, arrogant women who mad dog me when they see me and my loving masculine husband and our happy children. The tears of these fools only make women like me happy that they fell right on their arrogant faces and we came out on top." Bro, I remember fellow women in Japan who I didn't get along with as a little girl, but when we grew up, we would congratulate each other and we all became friends and happy that we married American soldiers who gave us happiness. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Me and my group of friends found these loving, dedicated, happy gentlemen who aren't all talk. They are movers and shakers. Now, I don't look down on my countrymen. And when I was younger, I dated a Japanese man, and honestly, we drifted apart. I wanted to be a doctor. When I achieved it, I was still young. My doctor showed up, my husband showed up, and I have a love affair I always read in mangas as a little girl that I wanted. I married a compassionate, happy, goofy, fun, and adventurous man who loves me. Life can be quite short, but honestly, I would never trade my husband for someone else. Guys, this is the reality now. This is the reality that women have to live with now, who chose feminism, who chose to be independent women. This is what they have to live with. And women who went the traditional route, now they are celebrating. They are celebrating. They are throwing a parade. They are drinking those salty tears up. And I knew this was going to happen from the very beginning. I knew this was going to happen from the very start. That traditional women, women who weren't out in the streets and chose to avoid promiscuity, they were going to go on the attack. Women who stayed off the streets and avoided Chad, Brad, Tyrone, Ray Ray, Pookie, Juan, Enrique, Miguel. The women who avoided these guys, they're now living happy lives. They got married, they found happiness, they found success, and they have it all. The women who chose the streets, they can no longer find happiness because their expectations are now too high. Instead of taking the time to build and to grow with one person and to love one person and to develop a connection with one person, they didn't do that. They chose the streets. And as a result, pair bonding is now virtually impossible. Because of what they did, now pair bonding is virtually impossible. And they have to live with the repercussions of that. They made those choices. They chose that for themselves. And now you have these women on social media and they're crying their eyes out. And a lot of these same women, they spoke very poorly of traditional women. They tried to shame traditional women. And now look at it. They're the ones who are alone. They're the ones that don't have children. They're the ones that are now in their late 30s and 40s. And you have these videos, and comments on the internet where women are telling other women that, oh, I had a friend, or I know someone's mother who had a kid in her 40s or at 50 years old, so she's good. She was good, so you can do it too. You can have a kid very, very late in life, and everything will be just fine. When the reality is that after the age of 35, a woman's fertility decreases significantly and becomes much more difficult to have a kid. There are also very serious repercussions to having a kid later on in life. I have a brother. I have a brother who my mother had when she was almost 40 years old. This guy is not wired right. He's not wired right. And a lot of that has to do with the fact, I truly believe, that she had him so late in life. People think that it's a joke. It's not. You know, a woman is at her peak when she is young. When she is young, those are her fertility years. Every woman should have her kids in her 20s. Let's make it very, very clear. Every woman should have her kids in her 20s. The very latest, her early 30s. And even then, that's pushing it. A relationship also works best when the man is a bit older. For example, Mayumi is 33 and her husband is 43. So he's about 10 years older than her. However, that works very well for their relationship. Look at what she said. Look at what she said in her message. She said something quite interesting. She said that even women in Japan that she didn't get along with when she was a little girl, she grew up, when she grew up, they would congratulate each other and they became friends because they all married American soldiers who gave them happiness. I've heard a lot of things about, from Japanese women who basically say that they like American men because American men are kind. Something that people don't know about the Japanese. The Japanese are polite, but the Japanese are not kind. While it may fall in line with Japanese culture, the fact is that Western men tend to be kinder. They tend to be more giving, more attentive, more appreciative. In Japanese culture, the men often won't help the way that American men will. It's a little hard to explain. For example, American men will often take on non-traditional roles. Even something as simple as making a cup of coffee for your wife is something that a Japanese man may not typically do. And it's like that in many other countries. American men are very giving, and compared to men in a lot of other countries, they're more affectionate. That's not to say that you can't find people in other countries who are cool. The way that we carry ourselves, our personalities, that's a plus in these countries. It's the same thing in the Philippines. Women look at the traits that you bring in the Philippines as something very, very endearing. For example, men from Western society tend to be more kind, but they are perceived as being more generous and more kind than a lot of the men in the Philippines and even a lot of the men in countries like Thailand. And you might say, well, you hear about the legendary kindness of people in the Philippines. Yes, and not entirely. For example, a lot of the men are not kind to their wives in that way. A lot of the men do not appreciate women, the way that the men from foreign countries appreciate those women. The men from foreign countries tend to be taller than men from the Philippines. The average height in the Philippines is 5'6". The average height for American men is 5'9". And then there are some European countries where the average height for a Western man in those countries is 5'10". So when you go to the Philippines, you're basically towering over the average person. The average woman's height is even shorter than that. So you have to understand that your income is going to be significantly higher compared to someone in the Philippines. But I mean, it's more than that. For example, in Japan, and this is, like I said, I know quite a bit about Japan. In Japan, there were a lot of women who wanted to have children with Western men so they can have basically designer babies because they felt that it would give them an advantage. So, you know, there were a lot of women who would like to have a child with a black guy because they wanted those genetic traits in their children. And they found those traits as attractive because here's the thing. In Japan, if you don't look, you can be born in Japan, raised in Japan, have Japanese citizenship, but if you don't look entirely Japanese, you will never be Japanese. And you could have been raised there for multiple generations. Your parents could have been raised there, your grandparents could have been raised there, but if they're of a different ethnicity, then you will never be accepted as Japanese. But that's okay because you can still enjoy the culture and the society regardless. And it's amazing how a lot of men are now finding that out and discovering happiness because they can go to these countries and the women value them for their differences. They value them for the kindness that they bring. They value them for their for differences in energy. There's just so much. And you can get yourself a quality woman who does things like she'll cook for you, she'll clean for you, and she won't think that those things are special because those are cultural things. And I find that quite endearing. And I've said this, I've said this, and I predicted this all along that, traditional women were going to end up mocking and making fun of women who chose to, you know, get swallowed up by feminism and find themselves old and alone and unhappy, with their cats. And now that's happening. And this is exactly it. They are mocking these women and they are celebrating they're celebrating their tears. You know, they're drinking them up. They're drinking them up. More and more of these women crying on social media, and eventually there will always be simps, but the simps are not loyal. That's something that women don't understand, and well, some of them do, and that's why they're going after the password bros because simps aren't loyal. It's just like how that there was a song about these girls aren't loyal. Remember that loyal years ago? Whoa, these girls aren't loyal. Yeah, well, these simps aren't loyal because as soon as another pretty face comes along, these guys will jump ship and they'll go find another girl on OnlyFools. That OnlyFools money for a lot of women, it won't last forever. Enjoy it while you're young. You have a lot of these women thinking they're going to do it until they're 60 years old, and they don't realize that it's not going to work out like that for them. Sure, there are some women, a few women that are in their 50s doing OnlyFools, but you're competing with 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and every day a new one is minted. You had your time. You had your time in the sun. And you think you're going to be out here competing with them? And you think you're going to you think that these guys are going to keep on following you? Come on. And when that income vaporizes, and it will vaporize, and they need to go into the real world, they won't be able to. They absolutely won't be able to. A lot of companies will not hire them if they've ever been on these platforms because of the things that these platforms are associated with. And I'm not just talking about the type of content, but there are also some other things that very, very negative things that they're associated with in relation to money and the way money is transmitted, and as well as people and even things related to children. So when they see that a woman has an affiliation with this platform, that she's been on this platform, they will not work with her. A lot of law firms won't even work with clients that have an OF, an OnlyFools. That's how serious it is. Basically, these women sold their futures for for instant gratification in the present. And it happens because these women become millionaires essentially at 18. Women are born with their value, while men have to create their value. However, as a woman gets older, her value depreciates. As a man gets older, his value increases because he's continuously working on creating his value, while she's basically spending hers. So when she should be finding a man and investing in that man during her better years, she's spending all of her value. And by the time she's in her 30s or 40s, her value has significantly declined, while a man who's been grinding, his value has significantly increased. One thing that's really interesting is that a lot of these women that are like, oh, I made $50,000 a month. I made $50,000 doing this. I made 300,000 or I made $500,000 this year. And yet a lot of these women that make all of this money, remember that a part of that is going to go into taxes. So like if they made $500,000, then when taxes comes around, just split that in half, and that's down to like 250,000, maybe $300,000. And then from that, they're spending every dime of it. They're spending every dime of it. They're going to go and find a place where the rent's like $10,000 a month or more, and they're going to burn through that. They're going to buy tons of expensive stuff, and they're going to think that that money will last forever. It won't. They're going to burn through hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next couple of years, and then when the money dries up and they've spent easily over $1 million and they have absolutely nothing, they're going to think that they deserve a millionaire. They already think that they deserve a millionaire, and women can't go back. This is something Chris Rock actually said in an interview once, in a comedy special once. He said women cannot go back. They can't do it. They won't do it. After they've lived a certain quality of life, they can't go backwards. So if she's been living like a millionaire, if she's been living this high life for years, she can't go back to living a simple life. She can't go back to living the way a Filipina lives in the Philippines. Even a Filipina who has a nice house and a family and a motorbike, and they have the family maybe has a car. She can't go. She doesn't want that life. She does not want that life. She wants a man. She wants she wants a mansion. She wants to drive a Lamborghini. She doesn't want to cook or clean. She wants to have all her food delivered to her or prepared for her by a personal chef. She wants to have a maid that comes and does her laundry and cleans her place for her. She never wants to have to think about money or budgeting. She doesn't want to do any of these things. And because of the way that she's lived, she doesn't know how to do any of these things. So what ends up happening is these same girls, these same women, they end up turning around and trying to become soft girls. So now they want a guy that's worth a ridiculous amount of money who will give them a soft girl life so that they can go and do what they were doing before. And you have to remember, they were living frivolously. So they want to be able to go and drop $10,000 in a single day and not have to worry about it. They want to go to a $3,000 spa and just chill. A $3,000 a day spa and just chill. They want to go and do that whenever they feel like it. It's no wonder that these Asian women are mocking women who are crying alone on social media. They squandered all of their value. Do you guys feel any sorry for them? I already know you don't, but I'm asking because it's your time to speak. Let's talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA and walking away. And cheers.